So the other day, I was at my parents' place and ended up watching the King of the Hill episode, Stray as an Arrow. And as I was watching the episode, I realized that it has one of the most frustrating endings of an episode that the show has. It's no secret that in the later seasons, King of the Hill ended up having more hit and miss episodes, where the characters stretched beyond their original characterization, making them feel a little flanderized.
Hill's in the crib!
Oh, yeah.
I don't think so. No, 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 no. I don't think so.
Now, Koth ended up being saved from the flanderization a little better than other long-running shows. Really, they just made Peggy a little insufferable and decided to have Hank go from the voice of reason to the answer to all problems, and he was never allowed to be wrong regardless of the situation. Luann went from being dim-witted to how are you breathing stupid.
I just heard on the news there's a Santa Claus exhibit at the museum and someone stole his leg. We were going to be normal, but now the baby will be born with a criminal record.
Though I do think she's hilarious in the later seasons. They gave her a lot of really good lines.
I am a proud, ignorant woman and no one is going to change that.
The point is, some of the characters started slipping, and midway through the series, they even ended up doing a soft reboot. The general consensus for when this happened is around season 7, as characters would start retreading previous episodes. Though I would pinpoint the season 8 episode My Hair Lady as the soft reboot starts, and that's the episode where Luann goes from being a college student to a hairdresser again. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about Stray as an Arrow is because it reminds me a lot of Hank's Bully, an episode that I've previously talked about. In that episode, Hank has to deal with a problematic new neighbor. Though, unlike that episode where he was fighting a losing battle with a child he couldn't discipline, this time Hank is clashing with a parent that has different views on how much freedom a child should have. So let's get into it. Peggy becomes the new welcome lady of Arlen after a theft scandal with the previous one, and she drags Hank to her first new family in the city, where we meet Wesley and Annette Cherish. While at their house, we meet their oldest boys, and while Hank and Wesley are talking, they decide to restart the Order of the Arrow from the 3rd episode of the show. And I cannot believe that they only used the Order in 2 episodes. You would think there would be more throughout the show, but I guess Hank really liked American Idol. So Hank is fully on board because in this episode he's having a problem with Bobby, who is being fairly lazy in this episode as he didn't bother changing his bike attire in the beginning of the episode, and he's so lazy that when he goes to get cereal from the top of the fridge, instead of using the stepladder 2 feet from him, he decides to knock down the box with a loaf of bread. It doesn't work very well. So at the first meeting, we see the first of the problems Hank has with Wesley, as the first thing that Wesley teaches the kids to do is build a fire, indoors. Yeah, so Wesley's an idiot. First off, he doesn't actually teach the kids to build a fire, just tying some of the strips of red and orange ribbons to some twigs and using a fan to blow them. Which, if I was a parent, especially one paying for my kids to learn some basic outdoor survival skills, I would be pissed if this was all that they were teaching my children. Wesley gives the kids rubber knives to use and goes way overboard on the safety precautions, which for the start, I am okay with. However, as the episode goes on, Wesley proves that he has no intention to do anything but coddle the children and teach them those skills that could prove useful in real life, which is directly opposed to Hank's viewpoint. You see, Hank wants the kids to learn skills that could prove useful in an emergency. Now, I never did the Boy Scouts of America thing. If I was lost in the woods with no food and water, either I need to find a way to civilization quick, or I'm screwed. I've never been camping or anything, and I have absolutely zero chance to start a fire without a lighter. So when Hank says he wants Bobby to get burned a little maybe, that's not I want my son playing with fire, it's I want my son to know how to safely build a fire in the event that he needs to for his own safety. The point of teaching kids life skills like this is to prepare them for every situation. Yes, you shouldn't give a kid a real knife right off the bat, though you should absolutely teach them the proper way to handle a knife. And once you've taught them the basics, then you let them handle the real thing supervised until you know they can be trusted. When I was a kid, I think around 6th grade, my relatives gifted me and my brother some model car kits that came with a screwdriver for the kit. My mother was afraid we'd hurt ourselves with the screwdriver, so she took them away, and the problem with that was she never let us actually build the kits. So instead of building them and learning how to use a screwdriver, they sat barely touched until either my brother found the screwdriver and took it back, or the kits were just thrown away because what's the point of them gathering dust in a box? I tell this story because the solution there would have been supervision, despite both me and my brother knowing sharp metal stick is sharp. But I can also understand that that was the first time my brother and I were ever around tools like that. Well, the first time I was. I can't know for sure if my brother was ever around tools at school or something. The point is, a tool is a tool, and all you have to do is teach and supervise until they get it down. Now, Hank does something I actually really like and voices his concerns with Peggy, who is more worried that Hank offended Wesley over Hank's actual concerns, because of course she is. Now, Hank does actually go and talk to Wesley in private afterwards, and not in front of the troop, which I do appreciate because it's always best to communicate instead of letting things build up where you grow resentment, and eventually lets everything out at the worst possible time.
This is the TV room? I don't see a TV. How do you watch the game?
The football game?
Here we learn that Wesley doesn't encourage any form of competition. I'd say violence, but the list of predatory sports Wesley gives includes tag. Which, I mean, I get the way I play tag, but come on. Also, they don't even allow the watching of TV. All 6 of those kids' entertainment must be watching grass grow. So Hank tries to talk to Wesley about letting the kids be more active with the stuff they're learning, though Wesley can only think about keeping everyone safe with no danger. The next problem is at the camping. Because the grass is too dangerous, Wesley decides to have the troop camp in at the library. And as the troop is packing the car, Bobby talks to the rest of the troop about the game that he's been playing, Face Kicker 3. Look, I know the game's supposed to sound overly violent by the title alone to get the point across, but there's better names they could have chosen. In Grand Theft Auto, they used propane as a pun, and a perfect title for a violent video game. Take a look at real games in order to get an idea. Mortal Kombat, Manhunt, Splatterhouse, Thrill Kill, Bulletstorm, Doom, Postal. There's an art to subtle violent titles that Face Kicker just doesn't have. Which, granted, Thrill Kill doesn't have it either, but it was one of the games on the list, though body part violent verb never sounds like a real game. Wesley's children become interested, and Bobby introduces them to a wonderful world of video games. This causes Wesley to become angry and call Bobby a bad influence.
How could you expose the troop to this garbage? You're a bad influence, Bobby.
And that is my last straw, along with Hank's. To skip ahead, Hank takes a shift at the camping and lets all the kids play outside, alongside eating and drinking sugar. He, Peggy, and the guys bring cupcakes, soda, tell scary stories, play some games, and even let the kids play with matches, supervised. It's only after Hank and the other adults let the kids outside to burn off energy that Wesley's kids run off into the woods despite being told to stay in the parking lot. Hank is forced to teach the remaining kids survival skills in order to find them, to which he's successful, and upon returning to the library, Wesley catches them. It's here that I need to take a step back and say the episode does a decent job in making both viewpoints seem correct. As much as I think Wesley is in the wrong with his viewpoints as he tries to remove all danger, and that's clear when trying to find the missing children, that the others didn't learn anything useful in an emergency, which this arguably is. They don't make Hank automatically right, which other episodes do. Hank voices what he thinks is better for the kids to learn, while getting some cuts and bruises, which are also valuable learning experiences. How else are you going to learn that touching fire sucks? I can tell you that touching fire is not fun, but it's not until you get burned once or twice that you're really going to learn to be careful around fire. So the episode has been building up to Wesley being wrong about the way he's running the order and Hank being right, so you would expect him to learn his lesson. Nope.
How could you be so irresponsible, letting these boys run around and eat cupcakes like a pack of wild animals?
Irresponsible? I let them outside. I gave them some sugar. They needed to have some fun.
You think you know what's best for my kids.
But, you hypocrite! Not 10 minutes ago, you were lecturing Hank about how he was raising Bobby and calling Bobby a bad influence. And what's worse, the episode treats Hank like he's in the wrong.
Robin has ADHD and Carrie's hyperglycemic.
Sorry about the, fun.
How I raise my children is my business, not yours.
Wesley's kids, one of them had ADHD and the other one is hypoglycemic. First off, my brother had ADHD and sugar doesn't do jack to him. On top of that, 3 of my D&D friends have ADHD. You know how you treat ADHD? Either you learn to deal with the symptoms as you grow up, which my friend and brother did, or, like my other friends, you treat the condition with medication and work with a doctor to find out what works best for you. Cutting out all sugar and fun is not the way to treat it. On top of that, this idiot is going to get his other kid killed. Hypoglycemia is low blood sugar. It's life-threatening if not treated right away, and while there is medication that can help, the easiest way to treat low blood sugar is, you guessed it, sugar! I know people with low blood sugar problems who carry candy everywhere they go just in case. They've never needed it around me, but they're always prepared. Also, I'm not a medical professional, and anything I said involving hypoglycemia and ADHD should be verified by an actual doctor. I know hypoglycemia is common among type 1 diabetes, though that is where my knowledge ends. Seriously, consult with doctors, especially if you have good insurance or if you live in a country with free healthcare. So the episode ends on a semi-good note, as after Wesley leaves, Hank takes charge with the remaining kids, who are invested in what else Hank can teach them. Oh, also, Luann and Lucky have been going throughout the neighborhood collecting wedding gifts. There's some good jokes here too. I've always been attracted to this episode because it's very good at making a character that has a differing viewpoint that Hank has to overcome, but it fumbles the ending by pretending that Hank was the one doing wrong the entire episode, when the problem was differing viewpoints that needed a common ground. If they both compromise on their viewpoints, Hank trying to find ways to make things safer, and Wesley, I don't know, agreeing that kids can get dirty and run the risk of getting hurt but not maimed, would be a good enough end to the episode. It's a good episode, it just has a rough ending. But what do you guys think? If you don't mind, like and subscribe. I'm still working on other videos. I'm not sure what's next, but I am splitting my focus on 2 to 3 videos right now. And I'm also planning on live streaming every once in a while, so turn on the bell if you want to be part of the fun.